You know the Tahoe was gonna spin the block. We coming, man.
Somewhere or another.
Right.
I've probably only gone fishing twice in my lifetime. However, I know a lot of people who fish. Over the years, I've interviewed hundreds of successful black men. Many times I've walked away from a particular conversation and thought, it's a shame that more people don't know about you. If we don't tell our stories, then they'll never be told. Much like the fishermen I spoke about earlier, we want to tell everybody about the successes of black men. The fishermen never tell how hard it is to get to that great fishing spot. And usually there are hills, uncut weeds, rocks, snakes, fallen trees, dark places, and other hazards.
Calls me N-word, calls me all these things, dare me to say something.
Many young men, boys even, find difficulty in obtaining success because oftentimes those they consider successful haven't been given the opportunity to detail their winding paths to success.
I got so much more in me that I can offer.
Going Fishing is designed to allow successful black men to tell their success stories. We know in just telling the stories, we inspire others. So grab your pole. We going fishing.
All right, so we're gonna hop right into it. Tell us your full name, where you grew up, and how you would describe Cleveland to somebody who's never been here.
My name is Michael Hardaway, Cleveland, Ohio, aka Shaker Heights.
What y'all do? Y'all do this?
No, it's bullshit, baby.
What Shaker do?
Hey, we don't do none of that. You know what I mean? So, Cleveland is a hard working town, man. Blue collar town. You know, people work hard. We was built from the steel industry, automotive industry. So it's a town that people work hard. They dedicated to what they do, and it's a great place to raise a family in the suburban areas.
What was your experience like growing up in the Shaker Heights community?
Oh, it was great. You know, I learned a lot of things. I learned how to mingle with all type of different people. I just was talking to somebody about that this week. The one thing that I'm always thankful for Shaker is that it taught me how to deal with the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor. Because that's all the things that a lot of people think when they think of Shaker Heights, they think of, you know, rich, affluent, you know what I'm saying? Understandably, that's the way they sell the suburb. But for a lot of people that lived in the working class area, you know, we understand, we got a chance to see a lot. You know, we had people getting brought to school and Maybachs, you know what I'm saying? We had people on foot. We had people that was poor. Some people, you know, living on public assistance.
When did sports first become a major part of your life?
I would say probably at about the 6th or the 7th grade. Where I really started to hone in on, you know, the different sports I was doing, and it just really kind of just took off from there.
Who were the early mentors or coaches who had the biggest influence on you?
I gotta say, Coach Bino, still at Shaker Heights, still the head Shaker Heights track coach. I talk to him once a week. He's been a very integral part in, you know, my success as a young man, but, you know, growing into this coaching thing. So, you know, he really set the tone for a lot of us black males at Shaker. You know, he was a guy that, you know, pulled himself up by the bootstraps. He started off as a volunteer coach. He worked his way up to defensive coordinator and eventually became a head coach, you know, after we left high school, and still doing this thing with the district now. So, you know, he taught us the game of hustle, not just at school, though. You know, he'd take us on the weekends, cut grass, and do things, because that's just the stuff that he did. So, he gave us a lot of game.
What was his name again?
Coach Bino.
Coach Bino. Shout out to Coach
AKA Anthony Watkins, my boy.
When you look back now, what moments from your childhood most shaped the way, when you look back now, what moments from your childhood most shaped the leader you are today?
Being around a bunch of friends, you getting into the realm of that thing and just, I have friends from all over, but I brought us all together. You know what I'm saying? So, like, no matter where you lived at, if you was part of the crew, you was part of the crew. So many guys I brought together that still got relationships today. So that's what I would say. I'm always bringing people together. And then also what helped my leadership with sports. You played football at Shaker Heights at the time. We was a public school power. We spoke on a lot of leadership things. So we were born and bred to be leaders.
What challenges did you face as a young person, period, but more specific as a young athlete, and how did you overcome them?
Well, life early on in Shaker Heights, I started kindergarten in 1989 in Shaker Heights. And so, like, the area of Shaker that I was living in was, like, right at the border of Cleveland. But we got bused to the richer part of Shaker and Mercer. That's where I went for kindergarten through second grade. And it molded me again a lot because I saw a lot. I got a chance to go over my friend's house that had really big houses. And that was just, it was amazing to see people living like that early, man. You know what I mean? All type of toys and Nerf guns, anything that you could think of. But then again, I had some friends that didn't have it that way. But I appreciated all of it. I appreciate it all helped mold me.
At what point did you know football would be part of your pathway to college?
Probably in about like the 11th grade. The lights started to come on, and I started to go on visits with my older friends, the Greg Pruitt Juniors, and it just opened my eyes to the possibilities. And he also let me know it was a real thing coming up behind him. That I had to keep grinding. I had some grade issues early on, high school, making myself ineligible, but again, the support systems of like the Pruitts of the world and the older guys really stand on me about, how I had to take care of my business, something I always appreciate.
What did your family think about your quote-unquote football dreams?
They were supportive, but they always gonna give you the 2 cents about 1% of the people make it pro. And I also learned from that. I learned what not to repeat with my son. It's who grind the hardest. That's who being the 1%. And that was the part that sometimes kind of got left out when they was like, oh, it's 1%, but it's 1% of the person that grinds the hardest. So that's something that I took and I use with my son, is that you could do anything you want. You can do whatever you want to do to be a part of that 1% as long as you grind.
I know you ended up at North Carolina Central University, but your path wasn't a straight path. Tell us more about your path before coming to North Carolina.
Well, I went to Erie Community College in Buffalo, New York. So when I entered Erie, I was 17 years old. So this was a time that they didn't have dorms. So I was living in an apartment. At 17, I didn't even turn 18 until the middle of September. So I had to stay on the straight and narrow, but I met a lot of older guys too. Junior college brings you close with guys that are fresh out of high school, but also guys that are looking for a second chance. So I got a chance to see it from all sides. Guys telling me, they might have been at the University of Buffalo, but things didn't work out, grade issues, and that's why they was here. So they gave me a lot of good game too.
How'd you end up choosing North Carolina Central University?
Well, Arthur Boyd, he's from Durham, North Carolina. He is one of my high school teammates' father. And he just got to talking to us, so it kind of happened. He called me while I was in junior college, and we got to talking, and I wasn't getting ready to leave that year, but Pruitt was. So I was like, man, maybe Pruitt, but we all thought that he was going to end up at a bigger school. So, he kind of came on, then Jay Wright came down, and then it just was a Cleveland thing after that. We just did our thing and just,
Say it was a Cleveland thing.
It was a Cleveland thing.
All right. What was the transition like from Cleveland to Durham?
It took some adjusting to, because it's like a little bit slower. And at the time, like now Durham is so developed, but at the time that I got here, it was, it was still on the up and up. I got a chance to meet a a lot of good people, and I say my transition was good, and changing faces barbershop helped my transition. That was one of the biggest blessings. Meeting T and E, and just coming into the culture really kind of entrenched me into the culture of the Bull City. It's why I feel today like it's my second home. I brag on Durham like I brag on Cleveland, so because it's helped mold me in so many different ways. I went through so many, ups, downs, trials, and tribulations, but I'm still standing, and I came across great people that still helped me, inspired me, and look out for me today.
How did playing at a HBCU influence your mindset, your discipline, and your identity?
A sense of pride. Just being around like-minded people, again, coming from Shaker Heights, you're around white folks, but to be around your kind, like as far as like professors that really care about you, I had some excellent professors, man, that really took the time out with me, and watered me on a lot of different levels. You know what I'm saying? Also corrected me when I was wrong. I had a professor at North Carolina Central that was like, he was like, "Hey, I love you like a son. But if you come up in here one more time, late, or don't show up to my class, I promise you'll be back here next semester."
Yeah.
And y'all know me. I tested these gangster, and I was back in that the next semester. You know what I mean? But,
What lessons from your college coaches still guide you today?
Showing up every day. Putting in the effort every day. Being consistent. I think that's the biggest thing from high school to college is the consistency piece. Showing up every day. I told she this, we was in the gym today, and I told him, I said, do you know what the biggest weight in this gym is? So they got the name and stuff. I'm like, no, the front door.
That's real.
The front door. It's hard for people to pull that door open and go in there and give it 30 minutes to an hour, myself including. That's something I'm learning to do.
Were there any struggles or obstacles during your college journey that shaped you?
Yes. Plenty of them. Things not going my way because I slacked off on some things. I'll just be honest. I'm old enough and mature enough to look at some of the things that I did. I had a lot of opportunities that sometimes I squandered because of myself, So the trials and tribulations came from academics, personal things. But again, I was around some very strong men that helped me navigate those waters and make sure I ain't end myself up in the penitentiary. So,
how you look back on your NCCU experience now?
One of the best times of my life. One of the best times of my life.
Yeah, you only got
listen. We can go a lot of different ways with that, but one of the best times of my life.
How did you first get into coaching youth sports in Durham?
The Durham Hawks. Is how, this coaching journey started. The coaching basketball came in the shop, and he was like, "Hey, what you doing this weekend?" I'm like, "Nah, we need to come on out here and coach this basketball." And the rest is history. That's one of the best things that have ever happened to me, because I realized in those moments that I was able to inspire and motivate the people younger than me. And like that was like intoxicating, you know what I mean? Just to know that they held on. Even when I see those guys today, or they reach out to me on social media, shout out to my boy Kobe, they let me know that. They give me my flowers, and I really appreciate that.
What did those early years teach you about working with kids?
It's all about the kids.
When you transitioned to coaching with the Durham Titans, how did that elevate your coaching experience?
A lot. I sat behind Brooks for 2 years as his assistant. That was one of the best things that happened too. He gave me a lot of game. Like, I thought I was ready. He know this. I thought I was ready so many times. And guys like Brooks and Ed, they never discouraged me. You know what I'm saying? But they always redirected me to the point of learning. And that's something that is greatly appreciated, because man, when you a young guy, man, you ready to jump out here. You know, like, no, I can do it, but I wasn't ready yet. But when I was, you know, they put me in the seat, and, you know, the rest is history.
So you found yourself back in Cleveland. Why East Tech? Why is East Tech the right place for you?
Because when I first got back home, just being on full transparency, I don't know if I was just going through life, but I had a big chip on my shoulder. You know, I got back and being that shaker at the middle school, again, I felt like I was ready to be the man. And that kind of backfired and taught me a major lesson. You know, me and a coach that actually was my position coach in high school bumped heads so bad that I was basically asked to leave. It was humbling. I had to sit back and reflect on myself, and I understood that I had to change some things if I was going to advance in this thing of coaching. And after that point, after I understood, I got a chance down the way coaching the CMHA Renegades. That one of another greatest experiences that I had, because that's what I was always accustomed to. You know, I was always coaching inner city kids, underprivileged kids. So when that opportunity came about, shout out to Howard Juice Little. He was the defensive coordinator at Shaker at the time. And I went through this thing had ravaged like a wildfire that the high school coaches had heard. So he knew that, you know, every time he would call me up to the high school, you know, 6 a.m. to go over some things, I would show up, like, just ready to work. And he said, hey, man, the youth league team, you know what I'm saying, in my neighborhood that I grew up in, need a coach. And I thought to you to coach the oldest group of boys. What you think? I'm like, let's do it. So I went down there, had a lot of success, you know, football-wise, but I didn't measure the success off the wins and losses. A lot of kids got opportunities to go to different high schools that they might not have had an opportunity to, or just an opportunity to get out and see some things. Because the one thing that we did with the Renegades was we traveled our kids every year. That was important to me. So we started off with like a little trip to Toledo to play in the Michigan-Ohio Bowl. You know, we ended up going to Florida in 2017 to play for the AYF Nationals. And that shaped so many of my kids. They still talk about that today. That sprung them into a lot of different places, and not just athletically. So then, you know, I went to Benedictine for 4 years under Jared Good. That was one of the, he gave me a chance to be a varsity coach. And then the opportunity came to be the East Tech head coach. You know, they reached out to me, you know, we talked, and I couldn't think of another place. It was difficult because people were like, why you want to take that job? I was like, because I know the community, I know the kids, and I stand by that. And, you know, it's a work in progress, but we are going to turn the corner at East Tech.
Walk us through the moment that you knew, quote, I'm supposed to do this.
I'd probably say the Durham Titans with a kid named Jaquez Warren. When he was a young guy coming up, you know, that was a kid that was always with me. And then just to know that he held on to everything I said and watched me so much, it was like, I'm made for this though. And I can continue to inspire and motivate these kids.
So, how does it feel stepping into the same school where Jesse Owens once walked the halls?
It's an honor. It's a privilege. You know, also to be the head track coach. So it's a lot of pressure. East Tech is one of the most storied track programs, not here lately, but historically, it's been one of the most storied track programs in the state of Ohio. So, you know, just to hear the people's pride, though, about the school, period, that have went there, it's just an honor. And to know that these kids are stepping in the footsteps of somebody so great, it's inspiring.
What does being part of East Tech's legacy mean to you personally?
It's an honor. No, I don't think that my name goes in the same sentence as some of the great coaches yet that have been there. I don't think that I've done enough. But to be like just I mean, and it's not even just like legends that are dead, like our basketball coach. You know what I'm saying? Brett Moore, like he done won like 8 city championships. You know, I've seen him do some things, take him to the Final Four. So it's a lot, but you know it's competition. I want to get, you know, I got Coach of the Year once, but he got about 9 of them. You know what I'm saying? So like, but I want to continue to try to mold my program, not fully, like football and basketball is a little bit different, but the pillars that he stands on with his program.
Yeah. What was your biggest goal coming in on day one?
Change how people thought about East Tech, the people inside the program. Because a lot of the kids here, people tearing down East Tech, like why would you go there? Why do you want to go there? That's not a place that you want to be. But just to be able to have people look and say, those kids ain't everything that we thought they was. You know, the way that they carry themselves, the way that they walk in the room. So that was always my reason. It's easy to go to a school or a program that's already established and jump in there and do your thing. But it's another thing to make kids look themselves in the mirror and wear that East Tech with pride. You know, that's been an issue over the past couple of years because, again, the school has a bad stigma sometimes in the city. That's not true, though. Just certain, you know, certain things can be perpetuated like, oh, they fight every day over there. But that's not true. Our kids are just like anybody else's kids. But, you know, some of them live in public housing. Some of them come from adverse situations.
Yeah. What's the biggest opportunity you see for East Tech athletics right now?
Keep working to get kids opportunities. Teaching my kids that you get out this thing what you put in. So from January to August, it has to be a grind in the weight room because I tell them that it's no substitute for being strong. You know what I mean? You can listen, if you're not fast, if you're not, you can substitute things for that. There is no substitute for being strong. And I think that they found that out along our journey this year with certain places and certain teams that we played. They just realized that we weren't strong enough to stand up for 4 quarters. Yeah, we could play for 2 quarters or a half with really good teams, but it's the consistency piece that make you be able to play for 4 quarters, and that's what I'm trying to get across to them. We got to put the work in from January to August in the weight room because certain teams in the trenches, you got to be strong or you're going to get tossed around.
Yeah, I think we talked about that before too. That's a good analogy for life. Like, because in sports, depending on what the sport is, sometimes if you ain't fast enough, you just play the angles. That's what people do sometimes in life. Like, hey, I ain't really built for this, but I play different angles.
That's real.
At the end of the day, your strength it's gonna either make you or break you.
It's no substitute for it.
That's real. What's your vision for rebuilding the football team or football program? I'm sorry.
Consistency, but not just from a football aspect, because I understand there's so many different pillars that go into being successful on the field.
Yeah.
Academics, and not to be cliche, but you got to push yourself in the sense of being a little bit uncomfortable. A lot of my kids didn't think that what you do in the classroom carries over to the field. If you can't be consistent every day and sit down and do some homework or some classwork, that means you got consistency issues. It's not a school issue. It's not a football issue per se. And I didn't understand this. Yeah. You can't sit down and do that work every day. You got consistency issues in life. If you got consistency issues, you're not going to be able to complete things.
Yeah, it's going to show up for sure. How are you revamping the track program?
Man, just putting us in. Coming up this year, and I just talked to Sheed about this, I think we got a really good chance to make a run to the state finals. We've put the work in. The team has grown. They've gotten better. They're getting ready to be juniors and seniors, so the expectation is up here of where we should be at. Last year, I think we finished like 4th in the city championship. We struggled a little bit at the district because we faced some adverse things. The weather, it was raining. And I just felt like, and I put that on me as a coach, that I didn't have them prepared to running the pouring down rain. Because some days we would be inside, but that's something that we're gonna change this year. Yeah. Because we got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
What does success look like to you beyond wins and losses?
Kids going to schools, kids getting opportunities, either whether it be college, trade programs, internships. Always looking. I had a donor ask me, so what do you need for the kids? And the first thing I said was opportunity. He said, "There's never been a coach that has." Well, I've come to ask them what they need for their program, and they said opportunity. My kids need it the most.
Yeah.
They come from ground zero. You know, so sometimes, man, when you down here with certain things, man, you need somebody to help you pull yourself. You bootless.
Yeah.
I need some help pulling myself up out of bootstraps, and that's where you taught me that, and that's one of the things that I've watched you do, time and time again, help kids that sometimes people might gloss over and not care about.
What standards and culture do you want your athletes to embrace immediately?
Embrace handling your business, walking in the classroom, sitting in the first 3 rows, not wearing a hood over your head, not wearing a shiesty over your head. You know, and that's...
How you get them to take their hoodie off?
Ain't nothing like rolling that field.
Oh, no, that's real.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? ain't nothing like rolling that field.
That's real. That hoodie come off.
That hoodie gonna come off.
That's real. How do you teach discipline, commitment, and accountability?
Discipline. Understanding, you know, one thing so funny, something I talk about touching the line during conditioning, and they think I'm just talking. So, you know, we had a kid, and shout out to Alex, man, because he grew from this point. Something happened. We were playing Lutheran East. He caught a hitch, turned around, and took it 70 yards. But there was no 70 yards in the touchdown because Alex got caught at the 1 yard line.
Stop.
And we did not score. Me and him had a conversation about just discipline and consistency and things that was going on. I said, but you're one of the kids, or you guys are, we talk about this as a whole, about touching that line. You didn't score because you didn't know how to finish. You didn't know how to finish, but from that point, to his credit, he took that, and in the second half of the season, he really bloomed and became one of our best players because he understood at that point, like, no, coach ain't just talking about touching that line. True. That's life, though. Back to what you said. True. If you're going to figure out a way to come short, it's going to eventually cost you, you know, moving forward. And he saw that, and he took the bull by the horns, though, and the next time he took a hitch, he took it 70 yards and got a touchdown.
That's what's up.
So, you know, he... very proud of him. He understood that lesson in real time. And then as far as you asked me about the discipline and
commitment and accountability.
Showing up to workouts. That's one thing that I fought since I've been at East Tech is kids wanting to show up in June and July. Good football teams don't show up in June and July. I don't think that you're gonna get anything. Yeah. So like that's the thing that we have been preaching. It's a work in progress. Again, some of the things that I'm asking them to do, nobody in that program has ever done. Right. You know, so it's tough a little bit. But like I said, the places that we went, dealing with adversity. The last game of the season, we're in a place called Steubenville. I mean, we ain't get no calls that night, and but I loved every bit of it. Yeah. Because they had to learn how to deal, dealing with situations that, man, he calling me the N-word. So they looked like I was going to give some type of reaction to that situation. So line it back up. And we dealt with a lot of adversity that night, but I was just so happy that we was in that environment. They learned something the last game of the season. Mm-hmm. It ain't going to be pretty. I came down here on purpose. I ain't have to come to Steubenville. I came here on purpose because I want y'all to understand what playoff football is like. We did not make the playoffs this year, but y'all needed to understand what a hostile environment. Again, we played with them for 2.5 quarters, but could not finish. Yeah. So those are the things that we're going to continue to work on.
You talked about touching the line. It's funny, man. Reminded me, I was coaching middle school basketball one year, and had this one cat, man. Just, he grew faster. He was bigger as everything, right? And they hitting the lines. He not touching the lines, right? So in between one of the heats, one of the other kids says, "Coach Bourne, you ain't saying nothing about such and such ain't touching the lines. So I say, yeah, he bigger, stronger, faster than everybody. And so I said, oh, and he putting in almost 20 a game. That's how life is. Sometimes people ain't gonna have to do the same thing as you gonna have to do. But the problem is, he gonna find out later when everybody else get to be his size. But he should be touching the lines now.
Yeah, but
I looked and saw both of them start touching the lines. You know what I'm saying?
But that is what you just said is the hardest thing for a lot of kids to understand.
Yeah,
it's hard for certain coaches to understand that.
Sure.
You know, I've told coaches before, I don't deal with them the same. They got different shit. It's like raising your kids. You ain't gonna raise all your kids the same way. Like, yeah, certain values that you have are instilled in them, but every kid is different.
Right.
And you have to adjust yourself to understand that. You know what I mean? So that's hard for certain players to understand. Like, well, why you dealt with me like this, but you dealt with him like that because y'all need something totally different.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And I told him too. I told him too. Because the guy he complaining about, he only complaining because he finishing first. So I was like, bro, if he touched those lines, he's still gonna beat y'all. You know what I mean? But you know, same situation. Life is life. What's the biggest misconception people have about East Tech athletes?
That they ain't gonna go to college. You know, that was the biggest. That was the biggest thing. Like, you know, you got a lot of coaches that will pluck our basketball players and our football players because they'll put false narratives in their head, like you can't go to school from East Tech. But how can that be when just less than 10 years ago we had a kid named Markel Johnson that left East Tech and went and played North Carolina State and did very well there. He's playing overseas professionally now. So just that our kids aren't going to go to school, that we're not going to put them in position to win. But like I said, that's the furthest thing from the truth.
You answered that one. How do you plan, I mean, based on what you just said, how do you plan to build a college pipeline for your athletes?
First thing we got to do is start with the academics. We got to hit our NCAA classes, and that's tough because there's certain things inside of the curriculum that we're missing to be college eligible. Like Spanish class, we don't have like a Spanish 2 teacher or something like that. So those are hurdles. You know, we're dealing with this, it's called Honest Games, I want to say. It's an app with the NCAA that you upload. You know, everybody is going to tell you if they're eligible or not. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of universities are just going straight to that Honest Games that a lot of them use across the country to know if a kid is going to be eligible or not.
How is that pipeline in youth sports coming into East Tech?
It's difficult. Just to be honest, you know, over the past couple of years, as far as the Renegades go, I've gotten their better players because of the familiarity with me and being down there. I've been able to get those kids to come. Now, the thing that I'm working on right now is with the Garden Valley Falcons to get those kids. That's the other team that's like a little bit up the street from us. So we work in a situation to combine those teams. It's tough because you start crossing neighborhood lines. So we know how that goes. You know, the Valley and down the way have had an on-standing beef, you know, for years. You know how that go. And I think that, so we trying to mend some fences, and it's coming along. Shout out to Coach Boone, the director of the Garden Valley Falcons. It's like a brother to me. We've been working, trying to bridge these gaps for 3 years, and we're going to get through, and it's going to benefit everybody. What's
your assessment of the current state of youth football in Cleveland?
I think the coaches got to be a little bit more cognizant of what they're doing and what they're putting out. And I know it's tough. You know, one thing that I've benefited from, and I spoke on this earlier, was having older mentors. It's not a lot of that anymore. It's a lot of young guys trying to figure this thing out. And I ain't knocking them. You know, I've been there before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, man, who is this dude, man? Doing this and doing that. But again, if it wasn't for the older guys watering me, not tearing me down. So just giving them game on if they want to advance their career, but just how to hold yourself as a man. It ain't easy. We've all slipped up and do things that weren't like fitting to the situation that what we're doing. Right. So just continuing to inspire them. But I also, you know, I can't turn my back on them. Like they're the ones that are watering the kids right now. So I have to continue to uplift them. Got to continue to bring them together. I would just like to see our conduct be a little bit better.
Transitioning into a similar question, what would a healthy, thriving youth pipeline look like in Cleveland?
Kids being developed. I think we're getting away from that in youth league. Everybody wants to have some super team. They want to get a kid from over here, and put it together, but who's developing anybody? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge problem in youth sports. You must understand this. I don't care if it's football or basketball. Your youth coach, you'll spend more time with him than any other coach. So he's gonna mold you to whether he likes it or not. You can spend 8-9 years with a youth coach.
For sure.
Who else are you gonna spend 8-9 years with?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. I heard Trey doing an interview one day, and he was telling the interviewer that he played for the Hawks for 10 years. I was like,
he did.
Yeah, and I never even put that together. How important is consistency and mentorship in a young athlete's life?
It's everything. Being able to, I had one of my former kids call me about 12:45. He's in college. I'm thinking something's wrong because of the time. First he said, "Coach, there's nothing wrong. I just need to talk to you." Yeah. I was like, "Cool, you go to bed at 12:45. I'm thinking something happened."
Yeah, for sure.
And he wanted to talk about finding out his girlfriend wasn't faithful.
Wow.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But I appreciated the phone call from him.
Right.
And not crashing out or doing some of the things that you see young people doing. Yeah. Man, and we really talked that thing out. But he already knew because, this ain't the first time we've held those type of conversations. That's what we talk about. And he was like, "Coach, I just..." he just poured it out. And we talked through it. You know what I'm saying? And he understood. By the time the end of the conversation was over, all right, I'm cool. It ain't really like the end of the world. Nah.
Yeah. That's dope. That's dope for real. That's the part that... That's the part that the fans don't see. You know what I mean? Like, shoot, you think about how many people play sports around the world. It's about this many of them that's getting paid, and there's even less amount of coaches getting paid what they worth, right? But, the coaches that make the headlines is the ones, just signed for $13 million, just signed for this, just signed for that. But nobody ever talks about those behind-the-scenes stories, right? And then, pride and ego, most times the players, the only thing they're going to say is, "Yeah, man, he was like a father figure to me." But he ain't gonna never say like
all the things that the journey
what that comes with.
Because it's a journey with these kids.
Come on, bro.
It's a journey with these kids because success look different.
Yeah.
From each kid. Yeah. So, when you get in this thing, you start to understand that. But my goal is to make you max out your full potential. Your full potential might not be John's full potential, but that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about you maximizing you.
Exactly.
So,
and you getting them it ain't just athletes, just at the time that you're getting them, that's the roughest time for everybody.
Yeah, because it's just like this, right? So when I got to the Renegades, me and my boy Richard Starr, Councilman Richard Starr, he was coaching with me, and I was like, "Man, we got these boys at 12.
Yeah.
We was able to turn some of them, but some of them were lost to the streets.
I lose a lot.
We went to some funerals.
Yeah.
We went to visit some kids in the hospital. I said, man, what if we got these kids at like 5 or 6? I've always dreamed about getting those kids at 5 or 6 to be able, like you said, 12 or 13, man, this is a shot in the dark. Yep. Of what's gonna happen. Some of them gonna attach to what you say, others gonna go another way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. We always talk about we put so much pressure on coaches, right? When you're dealing with student athletes, but What role should families and parents play in this rebirth of youth football in Cleveland, as well as that whole pipeline?
They gotta play a role.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing that I've really worked to empower the parents to understand that they hold the power in everything when you start talking about the school.
So,
You know, if there's certain things going on that you don't like, speak on it. Speak on it. A parent can move mountains that people that work at the school can't touch.
Right.
And sometimes in the inner city, our parents don't understand it. That's why the suburban schools, it's a little bit different because it's a lot of parent-driven organizations. In the inner city, very seldom do you even find a PTO.
yeah. What are the top, and take as much time as you need to think about this answer, but what are the top 3 things that need to happen to rebuild Cleveland football from the ground up?
Development. Understanding you're sometimes a supplement to a parent, but sometimes you gotta kind of sometimes step in and play that parent role. I mean, I've had to go up to the schools, sit in conferences and everything else just to get a kid in a position that he can win, and also let the people on the other side of the table know that he got a lot of people that care about him.
Yeah, got somebody. What is your coaching philosophy?
Again, develop a young man to his full potential, not based off of anybody else's potential. Maximize that young man's potential where he's at. Create different opportunities for them to be able to succeed. Again, trade program, entrepreneurship, photography. Always. So Thursday we did team dinners. My guy Jerome Baker Sr. Came through with this idea. You know, we kind of started a program. We had team dinners on Thursday night. He bring in a speaker every week. You know, you might be some inspiration and motivation, but it also might be a speaker from Kent State telling them about a co-op program that they're doing with the school that might not be on Front Street, giving them an opportunity. So he's coming back out, this week next week as we come up on our banquet, he's gonna come and speak again and he's trying to get these kids the first shot at this it's a technical program that they run at Kent's, a summer program.
Yeah.
So again, just giving them an opportunity to get on the college campus. And I've had a couple of kids because this is one thing about East Tech that people don't talk about. We got the #1 robotics team in the state. Who would think that?
That's dope.
Saying that the school is this and that. We have the #1. They've won the state championship like the last 2 years and competed at the national level.
Yeah.
She even took the kids to South America. So one of my football players is he's actually getting ready to go to Kent State for engineering. He's been with the program since he was in the 9th grade. So she do an excellent job with the program, though.
Describe your leadership style in 3 words or less.
Understanding but gritty.
So, what do you demand from your athletes every single day?
Consistency.
What's the first lesson players learn from you? In certain situations, I'm gonna treat you how you show up. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just a lesson in life too. Sometimes I tell people this all the time. Tough love is still love. And sometimes it got to be like that. Not every situation though. Yeah. No, certain times a kid might come to me with something that he's done that's just outrageous. He probably think that I'm getting ready to, but I don't deal with it like that.
Yeah, lose it totally.
Because he's not at the understanding that he even understand why I'm going off.
Right.
There has to be an understanding, and I didn't understand that as a young coach for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm going off on somebody that didn't quite understand the expectation clearly, so that falls back on me.
Right.
So that's yeah.
That's right. How do you build trust with your athletes?
Always being there for them. People can say it, but my athletes have had different stories of, me showing up for them, and sometimes some of the most crazy situations when they couldn't call on somebody. This year, I had a young man had a heart ailment, something that he was dealing with really like all week long. We kind of thought it was bronchitis, as the week went on. He told his mom on Sunday, and, she was just like, she thought the same thing that we thought. Kind of found out there was some type of situation with his heart that was like a birth defect. And I asked the doctor, I said, well, if this is a birth defect, he got physicals. The doctor was like, it don't work like that, coach.
Right.
Sometimes you don't see certain things just in the physical. But being there for him, when he came out of surgery, I was right there, at his bedside, and he knew, and his mother knew at that point too. Like, I think we was out of school that day, like for a holiday or something. And I stayed at Cleveland Clinic, a majority of the day with, him and his mom, and letting him know that things were going to be okay. The first thing that he wanted to ask the doctor was, so, am I going to be cleared for these last 2 weeks of football?
Wow.
No. And we're not even worried about that right now.
Yeah.
Step by step, but also keeping this kid motivated and inspired, because I've given him a lot of game. He came to me as a 9th grader, is a very good lineman.
Yeah.
He got aspirations of going to play college football and things of that nature. But just letting him know that our job was to make sure that he's healthy. Right. And that's all that we was concerned about. So, but like I said, always letting your players know, and their families, that you there. Like, something going on, coach gonna pull up. Make sure everything is cool. And that goes such a long way.
How do you motivate players who come from tough circumstances?
Those circumstances don't define you. And I get it. Sometimes a kid don't really got control over the circumstance he was born in before he's 18.
Yeah.
But teaching them a way to deal with it and strive, though. Yeah. Don't let it be your Achilles heel. Don't let it be something. Let it be the reason why you end up where you are. Right. In a positive way. You turn your pain into gain. Right. So that's the biggest thing. I don't let them feel sorry for themselves, though. Yeah. Standard to standard. Yeah. I don't let them feel sorry for themselves or their situation, because, like I tell them, man, this is the one thing about being here. You can be the poorest of the poorest and turn out to be the richest of the richest. It's all what you want. And I know that sometimes, I used to tell them this all the time. It seemed like it ain't fair that you got to walk a way narrow path coming from the neighborhoods that you come from, right? Yeah. But that's going to make you who you are. When you 13, 14, and you got your mind on getting out of the situation that you in, you understand the path. When you come in from the hood, I don't care if it's Cleveland or Durham. Yeah. A young man's like limit for mistake is about that.
Yeah, if that.
If that.
Yeah. Because you can fuck around and be with somebody else who makes a mistake.
Right. Yeah. So teaching them, trying to navigate them away from those situations. You know what I mean? I had a young man, a good kid, ended up in a stolen car after school. And he's not nowhere near that type of kid. His brother come with a homeboy that was in a stolen car. Police get to chasing them. They crash into a pole short from, this kid catches a case. And I almost couldn't believe when he said, like, we had got the news because people was going by seeing the police. And I said, man, but he learned the lesson though. He was able to come out that thing on top, but he learned something that day. Yeah. He was like, even if my brother show up here again, because he looks up to his older brother, so he didn't think that they was gonna put him in a situation that was gonna fail him. But like you said, it's that much separation. But that also makes them ultra successful when they get out here, because I had to navigate the neighborhood just to make it out, just so I make it out of here in a pine box, or with a whole bunch of time.
Yeah, one of the things I learned as you continue to do it, because sometimes, shit hard. You know what I'm saying?
Period.
But one of the things you kind of learn, like the more, everybody's going to learn it, right? Bro, it don't matter who you talk to, everybody think their life is hard.
Facts.
You know what I mean? Like, so however you think your life is hard, that's just how you figured it out was hard. But it's somebody that, like, if you blame it all on money and because you ain't got this, it's somebody that got all that you talking about, and they're telling somebody right now their life hard.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So, hey, what makes you tough as a coach, and what makes you compassionate as a mentor?
Tough as a coach, that the standard is the standard, and it has to be that way. It takes what it takes, is what I say.
For sure.
But I also know that I'm dealing with young men.
Yeah.
Somebody that I greatly respect with that motto was Nick Saban. I respected the fact that Nick Saban did not toss a lot of players off of his team or out of school.
Right.
Even when sometimes people are like, man, you should. They kids.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't take that approach. We like to hand out a death penalty to a kid.
For sure.
It's like, nah, he has to learn. Yeah. The best place is for him to be here with me. So just like you said, knowing when to hold and when to fold as a coach it's the key, man.
How do you balance that structure with relationship building?
It's all about relationship building. I can't put structure, I can't put discipline if we don't have a relationship. If you don't know that I care, you are not going to be receptive to anything that I'm saying. So, yeah, I like to show them that I have to show them that I care first, because they're not going. You can't come down on a person that think that you don't care about them.
Right. What have your athletes taught you?
Taught me how to. They won't say they taught me, but they can't. They have given me a lesson sometimes on how to be resilient. They gotta be resilient from a young age, man.
Yeah.
Some of these kids gotta go pick up siblings after school. There's some of my kids bring their sibling to practice.
Yeah.
Cause that's just what it's. It's a choice to be made. Either I'm going to get them and come back, or I'm gonna miss practice.
Right.
And it's never a pressure for me, because like I always say, family come first, so I get it. But we got to sometimes make some adjustments to get some things done. Yeah. So I've learned from them how to continue to be resilient. And people can say what they want to say about my kids, but they show up and fight every day.
Yeah. What are the traits of a successful East Tech athlete?
Consistency, discipline, leadership.
How important is it for young Cleveland athletes to see a coach who looks like them and grew up in Cleveland?
It's key. It's key. Look at what Coach Ginn been able to do at Glenville. Just based on he's had a 30-year run with kids that people wouldn't give a chance to, right? A program, a school that people side-eyed. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Like, just, yeah.
Do former East Tech legends and alumni, are they engaged in the current program?
Yes. And to be honest with you, some of them on the football side, they don't even know sometimes, how to engage that situation. It haven't always been a welcoming situation for them. Previous coaches, I've always empowered them to come speak to my guys, come water my guys. Kid, this is not even an East Tech kid. Amarion Dickerson plays for USC. He was at Robert Morris last year, had a big NCAA tournament, and then transferred up to USC. He's come by, practice, talk to the kids, because the respect that, he got for me and the respect that I have for him.
Yeah.
That, he went to a rival high school in the West, but he's from the neighborhood. And, my kids still talk about that. Him coming to practice in the summer, speaking to them, and then watching what he did in the NCAA tournament, obviously watching what he's doing at USC right now.
That's dope. How important is it for local businesses, organizations, and leaders to support the East Tech programs?
It's huge. It's everything. I feel like that's your quote-unquote tax, to support these kids. And a lot of times in the inner city, we let a lot of these businesses operate, and ain't no Little League pictures up on the wall. I go in there and I'm looking like, what are the pictures of the Little League team that you sponsored?
Yeah.
That's important, because sometimes in the inner city and urban areas, a lot of these businesses open up and feel like they don't have to pay no tax and help these kids.
Right.
And I think that's they got to understand, like, successful programs, the businesses that are in the neighborhood, they help out. From Little League to high school, they doing something. And I've always tried to engage the business owners, every chance I get, you know, to help out with a team meal, help out with, you know, anything that we might need along the way.
What would you consider the greatest impact you can make on a student athlete's life?
Giving them some inspiration and hope. A lot of our kids come from this situation and they're hopeless by 13 or 14 years old. Giving inspiration and hope.
That stuff.
Yeah.
What do you want the youth of Cleveland to know about your belief in them?
I believe that they can do anything. I believe they can be Olympic champions. I believe they can be top surgeons. I believe they can be political figures. I believe that they can be entertainers. And everything that I just said, all that came out of East Tech.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're at East Tech, if you at Glenville, you at Rhodes, you at Adams. The belief that it's greatness that walk through those hallways too, and you can do the same thing. So, you know, that's what I would say.
What message do you have for East Tech alumni?
Let's get on board and let's do this thing. We got the strongest alumni base in the state. You know, the NIL situation is getting ready. That was just approved for high school. Let's get together and let's make this thing special through opportunity, through mentorship and opportunity for these kids. They need you guys, man. You know what I'm saying? They need to see the faces of the legends or just the people that went to the school that are successful right now that want to pour into them. So it's key to everything that we do that the alumni are on board because they make a lot of things go around. Even at East Tech, you know, they bought chairs, uniforms, things of that nature. Another great guy that has always, speaking of alum, Pastor Vernon of the Word Church. He's an East Tech alum, and you know, we went through a struggle this year where there was some shootings at the field. They didn't want us to practice on the field, but the school district never gave us a place to practice. So I was without practice for a couple of days, and I reached out to him, and there was no, let me do this, it's done.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be up here. Gatorade, like leaving the boys Gatorades and waters, you know, every day that we was there. So, you know, that's the type of energy that we need from the alum.
Yeah.
It was no questions asked, and since I took that job, you know, he gave me his personal cell phone number, and he said, whatever you need, call me.
Why should families trust you with their sons?
Because I got a track record with, you know, look at my portfolio. Because I think that's what everything in life is based off of, what you've done, what you've accomplished. So, you know, what I've been able to do with these young men it's a proof, it's action you can trust. It's action you can trust from Cleveland to Durham. It's action you can trust. You know, you could go ask whoever, you know, and they're going to say that he's had my son's best interest. He's been there for us. He's been there for our family, and his track record is something that you can trust. And that's also some kids that come to East Tech that I might have never heard of that's looking for another chance. Like, no, you was the coach of the Renegades. You was coaching at Benedictine. So, you know, I've paid attention, and I've also, they're friends with the young men that I coached as well.
Yeah. Like,
go over there with Hardaway, man. He gonna get you together, and he gonna give you an opportunity to do the things that you want to do.
Scott, last few questions. What is your message to anyone doubting East Tech's comeback?
Keep doubting.
Finish this sentence. East Tech is about to
shock the world. I'm not gonna rest until that program is on a state level, and a state contender. And I know it sounds crazy, but I believe that. I just believe in God's plan, and I feel like I'm there for a reason. And you know, I just look at other programs throughout the state, like Taft High School in Cincinnati was one of the worst high schools. They just went 10-0 last year, this past season. made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs. Last year they made it to the 4th round of the playoffs. So it's possible. It's continuing to get people to believe in the situation, believe that they're good enough, believe that they're going to get it done. And I know that we're going to get it done and we're going to turn a major corner.
If you could speak to your younger self, what would you tell them?
Keep going. Keep going. The trials and the tribulations that you went through helped shape you into the man that you are today. Keep going.